Hello friends, how's it going? It's me, Betty Jean. Today I'm going to be doing my makeup brush collection and declutter. I've yet to do a brush video on my channel. It's been highly requested and I decided to turn it more into a entire collection and declutter because I did desperately need to declutter my brushes. I haven't done it in like years. I've just been accumulating brushes and there are definitely lots in my collection that I don't use. So I figured I would talk about that with you guys. Quick disclaimers also before we get into this. Please don't ask me to send you any of these brushes. A lot of them are going to be in the garbage if they're old and gross, or the ones that get decluttered but are still like alive will get passed along to my friends. Number two, please don't get upset if I happen to declutter your favorite brush. Brushes are very personal and what works for me may not work for you and vice versa. And number three, don't feel pressure to declutter your brushes. If you don't feel like you need to declutter your brushes, it's just something I've been putting off for a long time and I'm glad I finally did it. This is packed full with a lot of information. I tried to give descriptions on how I use different shaped brushes. I explained why I'm decluttering certain brushes, why I'm keeping certain brushes. I'm starting out with 237 total brushes, so grab yourself a snack. This is going to be a long video. By the way, I did film this look for IGTV. I don't know how far apart that video is going up versus this one, but this video will already be up by the time this video is up. So check out my Instagram Butte if you want to see this look. I will have all the makeup details in my description box though if you don't feel like checking that out. Anyways, without further ado, let's just hop into this video. All right, hello. You ready for this? This is gonna be a while. I'm not the best at this like positioning of camera. So if, I don't know, if I don't always have perfect focus, just, I'm sorry. I don't do this kind of view too often, but I feel like this was the most appropriate to really show you brushes. But we're gonna do the face brushes first. I have 57 face brushes and I have them kind of categorized. So I'm gonna start with my like dense brushes that I would use to apply like cream products essentially. All right, I got them all here next to me. I'm not going to do these in any particular order. I'm just going to kind of pick. We're going to chat about it briefly and I'm going to decide really fast if I'm going to keep it or not. I am going to keep a fair amount of face brushes just because when I do my costumey looks in Halloween time, like October, I utilize a lot of these for face paints and just like having lots of brushes on deck to use for different colored powders as well. So a lot of these I might keep. I'm really only going to get rid of the ones that I just truly never pick up. This one specifically is OMFG Cosmetics. It's just a dense brush. You could use this for foundations or just any really cream products. These all kind of do the same thing. This next one is the Morphe M439. This is still what I pick up when I want to use foundation. However, I am trying to declutter my Morphe brushes, but considering this one isn't natural hair and it's synthetic and it still works pretty good, this one in particular I'm going to keep. This one is the Sigma 40 HD Kabuki brush. I like the idea of this. I don't know. I don't love this one, but I don't hate this one. But I do think I'm going to keep it around because I do want to love this one and it would be a cool replacement for my Morphe one. I don't know. I'm just getting used to this like weird brush tip, but I know a lot of people like this one. Moving into the ones that I would use for like concealer, this is my Morphe E8. This is still what I use for concealer on days that I just wear concealer and don't feel like getting up to wet my sponge, or if I'm only using brushes, which isn't too often. I'm a sponge person, but I still do reach for this brush, and this one is synthetic as well. I plan on decluttering all of my natural hair brushes, I think. This one is from Crown Brush. I don't know what the style is because it doesn't say, but similar idea. It's just a small Kabuki style brush. It's more dense. This one works good for concealer as well. I'm just going to keep this one on deck as well. This one is my Luxy 532 round top blender. Oh, I actually like this one. I like this one a lot. I might actually replace my Morphe one with this one just because, like I said, I'm trying to declutter my Morphe brushes. But I'm going to keep the Morphe one just for costume purposes. Moving on into ones that I use more for like cream contour and bronzer, I have 4 more. This is my Luxy 680. It's the Pro Precision face brush. This one is tapered and like it has this slant here. It's really dense. This one's really good for applying like my Huda Beauty Tantour product. This is what I use for that. I think it picks up the product and just places it down nice. I don't use this to blend out the product. I specifically just use it to place it down. This one I never get use out of. This is a Wet n Wild brush and I want to try to declutter my Wet n Wild ones as well because I don't advocate for them anymore since their cruelty-free status is kind of not what I want it to be since I started selling in China and being sneaky about it. But this one has like a weird dip in the middle and then it kind of flares out and it's dense. But I just, even before I stopped using Wet n Wild, I didn't really use this brush. So I'm gonna go ahead and declutter this one. Finally decluttered one brush, holy cow. This one is the Morphe E7. This would be another good one to like apply cream bronzer or even cream blush to an extent, just because it's dense. It has this angle so you can kind of get in the hollows of your cheekbones. It's the Morphe E7. I don't know if I said the name, but I don't use this one too often. You can see the bristles are kind of flaring out, but I do think I'm going to keep it just for, maybe I'll use it maybe for costume purposes. And this is also a Wet n Wild one. This is another one I just never really got use out of. It's dense, it's flat. I just don't really find myself using this brush, so I'm gonna go ahead and pass this one along. Now we're gonna move on to like my big fluffy face brushes. I'm gonna start with this one. This is actually the only brush that I didn't wash. I guess I forgot to wash it when I washed my brushes yesterday. It's just this big OMFG Cosmetics like fluffy Kabuki style brush. I use this if I'm putting on like highlight on my shoulders. Simply as that. I'm gonna keep this one around. My biggest one is this Morphe E41. I started using this again recently just to set powder on my whole face really quick. It does the job fast, it works fine. The bristles still feel really good. I did like the Elite collection a lot. Out of all the Morphe brushes, the Elite are the ones that like I still think are really solid brushes. I'm gonna keep this guy. This one's from Wet n Wild. You can see how stained it is from blue pigment. It's just a fluffy brush. It's nothing special. I don't need it. I have a lot of other fluffy brushes, so I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of this one. My other Wet n Wild brush, this one's also just big and fluffy. This one has a little bit more of like a dome shape to it. It's not just like flared out like the other one. I can't remember the last time I picked up this brush. This one doesn't even seem like it's stained from pigment, so I don't even think I'm really using it. The bristles actually look kind of funky at the bottom. I'm gonna go ahead and pass this one along. This one is from OMFG Cosmetics. I see that I have blue staining on it, so I likely used this during Halloween time. I have no clue which brush this is specifically, but it's just a big fluffy brush. You could use this to like place bronzer all over your face, or in this case, blue eyeshadow. I'll keep this for that purpose. This is the Morphe G7. This one's okay. I don't reach for it too often, but again, it is good for me to just have like some of these big fluffy brushes just for the sake of like being able to place colorful product on my face. If I didn't do costume looks ever, I'd be decluttering a lot more than I am with these face brushes, but I do like to have some of these on backup. This is the e.l.f. Complexion Brush. I really don't like this brush. I bought this when I went to visit my friend Christy up in Raleigh and I realized I forgot all my makeup brushes, so I just went to Target and grabbed some e.l.f. brushes really quick. This one I just don't really like very much. I don't think it blends out my product very well, and I just don't need to keep it. This one from e.l.f., however, this is the Flawless Face Brush. This one actually works really nice. You can see this one's stained as well. Clearly I use it during Halloween time. I'm gonna keep it around just to have it. I have 3 more, and these ones I deem more as my like bronzer brushes. I like a specific shape for my bronzer brushes. This first one, however, you can see how like nasty this looks. It looks like straw. It's so bad. This is one of the natural hair brushes from Morphe. I don't buy natural hair brushes anymore, and I want to declutter a lot of these in this video, if not all of them, but this is the Morphe M43. I used to use it a lot, but like you can see it's so worn and so not it anymore. I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of this one. This one, however, I do currently still use a lot. This is the Morphe R2. This is from that rose gold collection. Again, I really like this kind of shape for bronzer. Like it's big and fluffy, but it has a little bit of that kind of taper to it. I think this applies my bronzer and blends it out really nicely. I'm gonna keep this one. And then the last one is this BH Cosmetics #1 brush from the Color Festival collection last summer. Same kind of idea. This one's a little bit bigger and fluffier, so this one would be for a less precise bronze application, but I am going to keep it. I think it's cool. All right, moving on to my smaller fluffy face brushes. Let's go over these 3 really quick. These ones I don't really have a rhyme or reason for. I don't really use any of these brushes. I will keep this one because I might be able to utilize this for like colorful contour during Halloween looks, like costume looks. I also could see maybe using this for regular contour. I don't use it too often, but maybe I will. This is the Luxy 514. It's a blush brush specifically, but I don't like this kind of a shape for blush. I'll go over blush in a minute. These 2 are the Morphe M53. This is one of the natural hair ones. It's very frayed and not looking so good. And this one is the Morphe M437. This one's synthetic. Sometimes I reach for this kind of a brush for contour, but I really don't full on contour very often, and if I do, I have other things that I can use in replace of these, so I'm going to pass these ones along. Let's go over my 2 blush brushes really quick. I specifically like this kind of angled shape for my blush. I just think it's the most I just like it the most for my personal application. This one's the Morphe E4. This is what I use most often just because it's the biggest, but I'm not specifically attached to this one. I'm also very cool with the BH Cosmetics number 3 from the Color Festival collection. Again, I just like this shape more so than the brush, but I'm going to keep both of these because I wear blush like crazy. I'm surprised I don't have more of the shaped brush in my collection, to be honest with you. Now I have just a bunch of smaller, more tapered fluffy brushes, and I'm definitely going to get rid of some of these. The first being these two. Both I think are from OMFG. No, this one's from OMFG Cosmetics, this one's from Crown. These ones are tapered, but they're just too big for me to really get good use out of them. I rarely use these, and I don't think I will miss them. This one is from BH Cosmetics. It's the number 2 from the Color Festival collection. Actually, I really like this brush for contour. I think this one works really nicely because it places it down and blends it out really easily. It's not the smallest, so it's not the most precise for really strategic contour placement, but it still works really nice for what I need it for. The second biggest out of all these is the Morphe E53. I can't remember the last time I used this brush, but it still feels like it's in really good condition. This was part of that Elite collection. I think I'm going to keep this one. I might be able to have a use for this one still. These are both Luxy 522 tapered highlight brushes. I do not use these for highlight. These are way too big for me. This is my favorite brush for setting underneath my eyes. I'm going to keep both of them because the more brushes I have, the least often I have to wash them. So I'm going to keep both of these guys. I love this brush. Similar with this brush, these are the 660. They're just in different colors. This is the Precision Foundation, but I don't use these for foundation. I only use these for powder products, and I don't use powder foundation. But I like to use this for setting under my eyes. I can get away with using this for contour as well. It works fine for that. I just have a couple more. This one is from BH Cosmetics. I have no clue what the number is or style is because it's not written on here, but this one also would work great for setting underneath my eyes. I like how small it is. It's really good if I need to throw in my bag, which I don't do very often, but on the chance I do, this one's good for that. These two I'm going to go ahead and pass. This one's from Wet n Wild. This is the e.l.f. Small Taper Brush. I just don't really need this Wet n Wild one anymore because, like I've said before, I don't really want to use my Wet n Wild brushes anymore. And this e.l.f. one, I got this one when I visited Christy as well, and it's just like not the best, so I'm gonna pass these ones along. And finally, I have this Juno & Co. one. I actually totally didn't realize I even owned this, but I really like the feeling of it. I could totally use this for setting underneath my eyes as well, or maybe applying contour, things like that. Next, let's go over my highlight brushes. I have 4 of them here for you. My number 1 favorite is the Kaleidos H1. I love this brush with my whole heart. I think it's fantastic. It's the ultimate highlight brush in my opinion. This is a natural hair one from Morphe. It's the M510. It is frayed. It is awful. It does not look good anymore. Just look how bad that looks. I really hope it's focusing. Oh my gosh, it's horrible. I'm gonna pass this one along. This one's the Morphe M501. This used to be my number 1 favorite. I am gonna keep this for costume purposes because sometimes I use a very wild, not normal highlights for those looks. And same with this brush. This is the BH Cosmetics number 4. I'm going to save it for costume purposes specifically. I have 3 duo fiber brushes here. I honestly don't use these kinds of brushes often at all, so I'm only going to keep this one. This is the Luxy 516. I want just this one just for the rare instances I use this kind of a brush, but it's again not very often. The ones that I'm decluttering are the Spectrum D04. This one's just kind of an odd shape, I feel like, for the duo fiberness. I feel like it's too tapered. I feel like it needs to be fluffier. And this one is a Luxy 524T. I don't know what the T means. I have 4 paint brushes now. I'm keeping these specifically for cream paints for Halloween time. This is my Luxy 510. This is the Morphe Mb 9. This is the Colourpop F17. And this one is just a Morphe brush. I don't know where this is from, but these are all like nothing special. I don't care if they're crappy. I don't care if they're good. If anything, I'd prefer that they are crappy because I just use these for paints and I don't want to ruin like good brushes. So that's what these are for. And this last little segment are like my miscellaneous brushes. I don't have enough to like put them in a category and I don't even really know where I would place them. First is this Morphe R10. I used to use this one like crazy for contour, but I don't reach for the style brush anymore and it's natural hair, so I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of this one. These two are both kind of weird. They're like dense and flat. This one, however, I do use with that Huda Beauty Tantour product when I'm placing it on my nose. It's the Morphe E47, so I'm gonna keep this one. However, this Morphe E55, I just don't use. like ever. I can't remember the last time I picked it up or even for what purpose, so I'm gonna go ahead and pass this one along. These are a couple fluffy brushes that like I just don't like even know what to really use this one for. This is a Black Moon Cosmetics one. It's supposed to be an eyeshadow brush, but it's way too big for me to use as an eyeshadow brush. I'm gonna keep this one for costume purposes, but other than that I would have zero use for it. This is the Morphe M43. I used to use this to set underneath my eyes because that's what Jaclyn Hill used to do, so I did what she told me. I don't have a use for this brush anymore though. I don't use this type of a brush, so I'm going to pass it along. Like I wouldn't use this for highlight, I don't use it for under eye, I can't remember the last time I picked it up. I have two little dense brushes, however this one's a little more fluffy. This is the Small Contour W07 from SL Miss Glam. I don't really have a purpose for this brush. It's like a big eyeshadow brush, but way too big to be an eyeshadow brush, but way too small for like my face. I don't have a use for this one. And this one is my BH Cosmetics number 5 from the Color Festival. It's just really dense and smudgy. Maybe this would work fine for like nose contour or something, but I don't have a use for it. So I'm gonna pass it along. And finally, this one I guess could be an eyeshadow brush, but I used to use it for like cream things. I don't really use it anymore. However, I am going to keep it for costume purposes. I probably could have put it in my paintbrush category just for cream paints, detail work, that kind of stuff. I'm decluttering 20 of, I think, the 57 brushes, so that's great. I got rid of a good chunk of them. So yeah, here's my declutter pile. You guys always want to see the declutter pile. I'm not going to show you what I'm keeping because they're organized and I don't want to disorganize that. Let me clean this up and then we'll start on the eyeshadow brushes. All right, we're back. It's time to dive in again. There's someone weed whacking, of course, right when it's time to like continue filming. I have 180 eye brushes. I don't know if you guys are prepared for this. I have them categorized by like blending brushes, like lid brushes for like packing, cut crease brushes, and then a lot of miscellaneous brushes. We're going to start with blending first. I'm going to start specifically with my really dense blending brushes. These ones are just really firm. They aren't very fluffy. They do still help blend, but they're not very fluffy at all. I have two of the Spectrum C06 brushes. I do like this brush. I don't use it very often, but I do want to have it. This one's also a C06 from Spectrum. I have 3 of those. I have a lot of Spectrum brushes. At the very end of the video, I'm going to go over my favorite brands, by the way. These are the BH Cosmetics number 9 and number 6. I don't find myself using these ones very often. I reach for my Spectrum ones over like these ones, and like I already said, I don't use these kinds of brushes very often anyway. And this one is a Colourpop F2. This one's weird because it has like an angle to it and it's dense. I don't really use this brush just because it's weird. It just doesn't suit my needs, so I'm gonna pass this one along as well. We're gonna go now into like my larger fluffy brushes, and then we'll go more into like my medium and then my small. I have a few Morphe brushes. I'm gonna get rid of the 2 natural hair brushes. They're completely falling apart. They don't look very good anymore. This one right here is the M518 and this one is the R37. I do still use them. You definitely see me use them in my videos, but I think it's just because I have them and because my other brushes get dirty. This one is the M504. This one I used for a while, but honestly, it's just like way too big. It's definitely my biggest blending brush, and I don't like picking this one up. It's way too big. I like a little more precision with my eye looks. This one's the E23. I still do use this one as kind of laying down like a large transition shade or smearing something all over the lid. I think this one still works pretty well, so I'm going to keep this one. And this one is the Morphe E13. Again, I like laying this one down for like a big transition shade, or if I'm smearing something all over the lid, less precise work. I like this brush. I have 2 from Alter Ego right here. I really like Alter Ego's brushes. I think they work great. I have number 2 and number 3. Both of these just work really great as just really solid fluffy brushes for helping lay down maybe that first shade or blending out shades. They don't let me down. They work really great. Next is this Colourpop E2. I really, really like this fluffy brush. I wouldn't be mad if I had multiple of these. I think this one's great. I think it blends out product beautifully, and it's just really soft. I really like soft brushes. A lot of those old Morphe brushes were getting very scratchy. I'm a soft brush kind of person, as I assume most of us are. Oh, I do have a second E2. How about that? Look at me, reading my own mind. This is from Kaleidos. This is my S1. I think Kaleidos brushes might be one of my favorites. They're definitely one of my favorites. I don't know if they're my number 1 favorite, but definitely one of my favorites. They are so soft. They blend product so nicely. Love these brushes, and they're so beautiful. This one from BH Cosmetics is weird. It's the number 8 brush from the Color Festival collection. It's like really long and it's not very fluffy, and it's just, I don't know. This doesn't do much for me, so I'm gonna get rid of this one. This is one from Wet n Wild. I was still using it, but again, similar to Morphe, I think it was just because like it's here and my other brushes would get dirty, so I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of this one. My goal through a lot of this is honestly just like if I have my favorite brushes, maybe I'll just wash them more and I won't ever have to use brushes I don't like. This is the SL Miss Glam brush. It's the L34. I actually really like this brush. I like it more than I thought I would. I feel like it disperses product really nicely and it blends out beautifully. It's not my favorite blending brush in the whole world, but it serves purpose in my collection. Same with the Alomar one. This one, it's not like my #1 favorite brush of all time, but it serves its purpose and I'm gonna keep her around. This one's really random. It's the Pixi E02. It's another one that I think I'm just using just for the sake of using it, but I don't love this brush. It's like too fat to be like a packing brush and too big for that, but it's also not like precise. I don't have much use for this one. I really don't pick this one up unless I really need a brush. And these are the last two bigger ones. This one is from Lab Squared. I don't know that brand, and this one's from Scone. They're not like my favorite brushes, but they are good to have just when I am getting low on brushes. They're still really soft, so I'm gonna keep them around as like my last resort brushes. Now we're on kind of my like medium size brushes, getting a little bit smaller, a little more precise. These two are from Morphe and they're both natural hair. This one is the M441 right here, and this one down here is the M433. You can just see how horribly shedded they're getting. Again, I only picked these up because my brushes are getting dirty. They are not my favorite to use. They're very scratchy. They did their time. They should have probably died a long time ago though. I have 4 from Wet n Wild here. These two are a little bit bigger. These two are a little bit smaller. I am going to keep the 2 smaller ones around just because I like the shape of these a lot. You might notice in my videos if I use any of these Wet n Wild brushes, I never say that it's a Wet n Wild brush. I just describe the type essentially. So I'm going to keep these around. I'm not really going to like advocate that they're Wet n Wild, but I am going to use them because I think the shape is useful, but you can get this shape with other things. Like I'm going to show you some other brushes that are more small medium that perform similar, but I do like having these. These two, however, are getting really old. Like this one's stained. They're just getting a little too flimsy. I think it's just time to let these two go. Another Kaleidos brush. This is my S2. Again, it's just so lovely. It blends the product so beautifully. I love this. I love all these for crease work, obviously. I don't use these for the lid, but I really like this one for specifically placing product directly in the crease and really fluffing and blending it out, kind of blending out my darkest shade. I really like this brush for that. Yeah, it's great. Another Colourpop brush. Oh, it's another E2. I'm so happy. I put this in the wrong category. This is the BH Cosmetics number 10. This is another one that's, again, it's a little smaller than the one I showed you before, but it's a little too long for me. I like I don't need the brushes to be like as short as this one per se, but this one's just a bit too long and I don't love using it. So I'm gonna pass this one. This one, however, that I just showed you is the Luxy 229. This one I probably could have put in my small category, but I don't know, whatever, I guess I just didn't. But I really like this one for really blending out that darkest shade, really precise work. It's great in the crease, it's still really soft. I really like Luxy brushes. And now I have 4 from Spectrum, and I think these are all the same. Let me double check. Yes, these are all Spectrum B06s, they're just different colors. I like it for that same reason I was just saying. I like to just really tuck this in the crease and really blend out my darkest shade. I think this works great. They're nice and precise. They're longer, but they're not nearly as long as like those BH Cosmetics brushes. I like this shape a lot. Spectrum is one of my favorites as well. Well, out of what I just showed you, that's what I'm keeping. That's what I'm getting rid of, just so you can kind of keep up. We're moving on now to my like small blending brushes, my under eye brushes, smudgy brushes, things like that. We're going to start with like my smallest blending brushes. These ones I also do utilize as like underneath my lower lash line, but for the most part these are just like small blending brushes. I like to use these in my outer corner, really deepening things up in the crease, really detailed, precise work. These are my 3 Morphe brushes, and I'm still going to keep all of these because I feel like they still perform pretty well and they're all synthetic. This is the E17. I use this to just really, actually both of these are E17s, but they have different shapes. That doesn't make very much sense, does it? But apparently they're both E17s. I know this is the old Elite collection and this is the newer one, so maybe they just upgraded the shape, but regardless, they're both E17s. I like to use these to, like, again, really deepen up the outer corner, smudge things on the crease, I mean lower lash line, not necessarily the crease, things like that, really detailed work. And then this one is my M506. This one's getting close to the end of its time. It's starting to get a little frayed, but it's not quite there yet, and I do really like this one for really tucking things deep in my crease and, again, deepening things up. This one is from Colourpop. It's the E9. Same thing as what I just said with the other ones, and I really like this brush. I really like Colourpop's brushes. This is another one of those Wet n Wild brushes that I showed you in the last segment segment. I just forgot to include it in that part, but I'm gonna keep this guy. This is one of the smaller ones that I still like. These are two Luxy brushes. I got these in BoxyCharm a while back when I was still subscribed to them. It's the 131 and the 121. This one has a little bit of an angle to it, so this one's really nice if I want to add a precise angle in my outer corner, and this one's just simply like a really small fluffy brush essentially. These are both really good for precise crease work. I wouldn't mind having another set of these because it also came with two more that are like really small. Really like this set of brushes specifically. And these ones you guys see all the time. These are my e.l.f. brushes that I use constantly. These two are the e.l.f. Crease Brush. It's just really small, really fluffy. They blend really nicely. They pack things down in the crease and outer corner. They blend good. I mean, I'm just going to keep repeating myself because I like this brush a lot. And similar with all four of these. These are the Tapered blending brush. Really like them for that precise work. I don't think my camera wants to focus on these brushes, but these are brushes you see so often used in my videos. Pencil brushes. This is where we are at now. Let me just go over the two that I'm not keeping. They're both from, well, no, this one's from Morphe. I don't even know what set this is from. It's really old, but it's just falling apart. The brushes are getting kind of flimsy and it's getting a little scratchy. And this one is the e.l.f. Eye Crease Brush. Same kind of thing, it's just really old. It's starting to just like not be its prime anymore, so I'm gonna get rid of these two pencil brushes. The rest I'm gonna keep. I love my pencil brushes. This is the Morphe Mb18. I mean, with all these pencil brushes, I'm gonna say the same thing, so let me just describe them first and then we will get into what they are. I like to use these to smudge dark colors or really any colors really close to my lower lash line. I use this to pack shimmer in my lower lash line. I use this if I really need to precisely deepen up my outer corner. I use these for all the same reasons, so these are just what they are. Mb18 from Morphe. This one is the Morphe E18. This one is the Morphe E36. This one's a bit smaller, so this one can be even more precise than the other two. These next two are from Luxy, also from that set. This one is the 141 and this one is the 111. This one has a little bit of, I almost want to say duo fiberness to it. This one's a little bit different and it has a little bit of a slant, so I really like using this one if I need to create a certain shape. All five of these are the same. These are all Spectrum A12s. You see me use this all the time in my videos. I have quite a few of them and I wouldn't be sad if I had more of them. I'm sad the Riley Rose store near me is closed now because this is where I used to pick them up. I could just get a set of these pink ones for fairly cheap without having to pay shipping. This is the Colourpop E5. This one has a little bit more of a taper to it. It's not my favorite, but it's not my least favorite and I still use it, so I'm gonna keep it. This is one of the Alter Ego brushes. It's the number 7. Actually one of my favorite pencil brushes in my whole collection next to those Spectrum ones. I really like the shape of it. They did a good job with this brush. Same with this one. This is the Kaleidos S5. It's so small and precise. This might be my smallest blending brush. That or that Morphe one is that I showed you earlier. This one is so good for precision work. This is the Pixie E03. I really like this one. It's really fluffy and it's really soft. It's a solid pencil brush. This one I might get rid of as well. It's one of the e.l.f. crystal brushes. It's really old. I've literally had this for probably 7 or 8 years, like a long time. It's just, I think it's reaching the end of its time, so I'm gonna pass this one. I wanna pass this one too. This is one of the Wet n Wild brushes. I just don't really need this one. I have plenty of blending brushes, pencil brushes. I'm getting all my words mixed up. And last is this BH Cosmetics number 11 brush, another just solid pencil brush. It does its job. And finally, I just have some like smudgy brushes, ones for really precise lower lash line work. I'm gonna get rid of this Wet n Wild one. It kind of like starts to smush inside of itself over time, so I don't like that. These other 4 I'm keeping though. This is the Morphe MB16. This one has a little bit more density to it. It's a really good smudgy brush. These other 3 are just really good for like defining really close to the lash line, kind of laying down that really dark shade. This is the M432. This one is the Colourpop E11, and this one's an Alomar brush. They're all very similar, just like that flat rectangular kind of tip. Well, out of that segment, this is what I'm keeping. And this is what I'm decluttering. All right, so now we're gonna move on to a variety of just like lid brushes. These ones specifically are gonna be just like my lid brushes that aren't cut crease brushes, if that makes sense. Cut creases will be next. We're gonna go over first my really dense shadow brushes. These ones are just really dense and firm. These ones are really good for just packing on a ton of product. More so than just like a typical, like, let me give you an example. Like this is kind of what I deem to be a regular eyeshadow brush. It's a lot more not flimsy, but these ones are just more stiff, if that makes sense. I don't have a lot of these because as you can see, I just don't use them very often. 3 of these are Spectrum A07s. I'm going to keep these 3, but I'm going to declutter the e.l.f. C brush. If I'm going to pick up a brush like this, it's going to be my Spectrum ones. I like these ones more than my e.l.f. Now we're going to go over just kind of my typical packing brushes. This is what I usually utilize for just packing a shade on the lid. First is this Luxy 213 brush. It's the eye shading brush. And again, I like all of these for simply just packing shades on the lid. I like placing color after I've cut the crease. Kind of like that. These are all going to have the same explanation, so I'm simply just going to go through what they are. And I'll tell you which ones specifically are my favorites and which ones I'm decluttering. Really like this Luxy one, the Luxy 213. I think it's really solid. These 2 are from Alter Ego. This one down here is the number 4. This one is the number 5. Again, they're really solid. I like Alter Ego's brushes a lot. These 3 are all from Wet n Wild. They're not my most favorite brushes, but considering I do so many makeup looks, it's good for me to have a lot of brushes, so I'm gonna keep these ones. These 2 are both from SL Miss Glam. They are the N15 and P15, but they're the same brush, essentially. I like these brushes. I think they do a great job. This is a really old e.l.f. one. You can see it's that crystal collection again. I'm gonna go ahead and pass this one along because it's done its time. It's old. This one's from Scone Cosmetics, I think. I can't remember. The name is rubbed off, but regardless, it's a really solid just shadow brush. Sorry that I don't know the name. This is a Spectrum A06. It's large and in charge. She does the job. I like this brush. This one's from Royal and Langnickel, and I don't know where these 2 are from, but they're all essentially the same. Like, I really like just kind of the standard shape for packing on the lid. Like, common theme, that's what I like. These ones I deem more as like my fluffy shadow brushes, like my fluffy lid brushes, because they have a little more flims to them. Some of them have kind of this tapered aspect where like they can almost work as a blending brush as well. I really like this kind of brush for when I'm just packing like maybe a matte shade all across the lid and then want to use this same brush to blend out the edge. That's what I like all of these for. Yes, I can use these just to pack on the lid, but I specifically like to pick these up when I also want to do a little blending with it. I don't use these brushes I just showed you for blending. This one is my Alter Ego number 1 brush. I love this brush. Again, it's really solid. It does the job for me. I think it's a great brush. Another Kaleidos brush. This is the S3. I really want to actually buy another set of the Alter Ego ones and the Kaleidos ones because I love all of them so incredibly much. They're really well done sets. But again, great brush. All 3 of these are Spectrum A08s. They all do the job. You can tell I like Spectrum brushes a lot. I think they're fantastic. Both of these are from Colourpop. This is the E1. However, this one was like a free gift with purchase years ago, back before they even made brushes. I'm assuming it's like the same brush though because the shape looks quite similar. But yeah, I use these brushes all the time. These 2 I'm going to be decluttering. This one is one of the Wet n Wild brushes and this is an OMFG Cosmetics brush. They just aren't my favorite. I like the other ones I showed you way more. These are the last resort ones I reach for, so I don't think I need to keep them. And these ones I deem as like my angled shadow brushes. I like to use these to really pack in the outer corner with this shape to kind of create that angled shadow look. These 2 I'm going to be decluttering. I just don't really reach for these ones. This one is the Sigma E70. It's a smaller brush as far as like lengthwise, and this is the Step 2 from the Vintage Cosmetic Company. These are just like the last ones I would reach for, and I really don't use this style brush too often anyways, so if I am going to use it, I'm going to use one of the ones I'm keeping. Well, obviously I'm going to use one of the ones I'm keeping, but like these are just my preference. This one is a Luxy 207 medium angled shading. Same description as I was just giving you. And then all 4 of these are the same. They're the Spectrum B04. These ones are definitely my favorite when it comes to an angled brush. I think it lays down that product nicely. It gives me a little bit of fluff to blend it out a little bit, but for the most part I use it to pack down those shadows. Out of that segment, keeping. Not keeping. Moving on. These next brushes are mostly my like cut crease brushes, but also a couple just like really small dense packing brushes, but like not a pencil brush, but not an all over lid brush either. This one actually got away from me though. This should have been in my blending brush category, or like it's like a really long pencil brush. I don't like this brush. I can't remember the last time I used it. It's from OMFG Cosmetics. I just feel like the shape is weird and I just don't use it. So I'm gonna pass this one along. Sorry. These ones are kind of like my really dense shadow brushes. Like you can see it has that normal like packing shape, but they're not thin enough for me to cut the crease with. But I do like these for really packing on like a really small portion of my lid if I'm doing really detailed work. However, I'm only gonna keep Ooh, I think I might actually keep all of these. I like all of them. This one's the Spectrum A13. This one is the Pixie E01. And these two are both from the Vintage Cosmetic Company. They're the Step 1 and Step 3. Actually, I might put the Step 3 more so in my like smudgy category for my under eyes. I think this might do better there. These are my cut crease brushes. I have plenty of them because I do cut creases all the time. So just in case you're new here, when I do cut creases, I typically just use my NYX glitter primer and I use a flat brush like one of these to really carve out where I want that shadow to be placed. Sometimes I use concealer or like my Makeup Revolution cut crease canvas, but most of the time it's just my glitter primer and a flat brush. Oh, this one I actually want to get rid of. This should have been in the category I just talked about. This is the Spectrum A13. It's just kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of warped and weird. It's not performing the same. I'm gonna pass this one along. This is my only Spectrum brush so far that's like gotten weird. But these three are all the same. These are the A16. This is my #1 favorite for cutting the crease. It's small and dainty and so flat and so precise. I would be happy with 50 of these. I love this brush. This is the Alter Ego #6. I also really adore this one for cut creases. It does such a good job. This one from e.l.f., it's the flat eyeshadow brush. This one isn't my favorite, but considering I do so many cut creases, I need options, and this one's not like a bad option, so I'm gonna keep this one. This one's also one of those Colourpop brushes that was like free with purchase. Like this was back before they even had brushes, and it does a great job. I wish this was like an actual brush. This might be a brush in their collection. I don't know. Actually, yes it is. I have it right here. It's the E3. I think this is pretty much the same. I really like this one. I think this does a great job. Also from Colourpop, this is the E8. This one's just a little too short for my preference. However, like I said, I do so many cut creases that this one, it's just kind of necessary for me to have. These three are all from Wet n Wild. These two are the same shape. This one's a bit longer and smaller. I like using all of these for cut creases, so I'm gonna keep them around for that purpose. I need them. Actually, I might get rid of these two. These ones are getting really old. Like, look how bad this brush handle's looking. I'm gonna get rid of those two, but I am gonna keep this one. This one's still looking pretty solid. And this last one is the Alomar Cosmetics brush. This one's also one of my favorites for cut creases. I actually wouldn't be sad to have another set of the Alomar Cosmetics brushes. These four are just like kind of weird. They're like a little too like thick to be precise cut crease brushes, but they're not fluffy enough for me to use as packing brushes. I'm actually going to get rid of 3 of them. I'm going to get rid of this OMFG Cosmetics one, this OMFG Cosmetics one, and this BH Cosmetics #7. I just realized I feel like I'm decluttering all of my OMFG Cosmetics brushes. The quality isn't bad. The shapes just don't suit what I need, simply. This one I'm going to keep though. This is the Kaleidos S4. I like Kaleidos brushes, and even though this one's a little too fat for like cut crease work, I can still make this one work and it's not a huge issue, so I'm going to keep this one. Out of what I just showed you, keeping, not keeping. Let's move on. Wait, are we done? No, we have miscellaneous brushes now. Let me set all that up. So this first kind of category, like subcategory of my miscellaneous brushes, these are my dual-ended brushes. They have brush heads on both sides of the brush. These are my Anastacio brushes. I love this brush. I think they're all great. I still love the fluffy side. I love the packing side. I think these are fantastic brushes. The people who don't like them are missing out because I think they're so good. These two are from Urban Decay. They're from like old Naked palettes. I really need to get rid of both of these because I don't enjoy using them. I only pick these up if I literally have nothing else to use. So I'm gonna pass these ones. This is my Lunar Beauty brush. This one is falling apart. Look how nasty it is. I think this side's, yeah, this side's supposed to be long. It just always flops inside. It's just not a great quality, but it's also old, so I'm gonna get rid of it. This one's a really random Urban Decay LTE, LTD, I don't know. This came from a really old Urban Decay palette. I keep this around to place glitter, which is a really weird purpose, but I don't care about this brush and I don't care if it gets gunked up with glitter, so I'm gonna keep it for that specific reason. This is a really random brush. I don't know where this is from because the nape is rubbed off, but it has a pencil brush on one side that's very stained and a fluffy, like, shadow packing side. I don't use this brush, so I'm going to move this one to the declutter pile. This one's from Royal & Langnickel. It's the Crease Smudge brush. I actually really like the fluffy side of this brush a lot, and the smudgy side, like, it does a pretty solid job, so I'm going to keep this one around. And this is a Luxy brush. This is my Luxy 249. It has a fluffy side, it has a shadow side, and I really enjoy both sides of this brush a lot. I really wish this was 2 separate brushes. I'd be a lot happier, but I do like this brush on its own. These 4 are like my weird fluffy brushes. Like, I don't have much purpose for these, and I'm only gonna keep one of them. I'm gonna keep this weird Wet n Wild brush just because I use this to blend my eyeshadow primer across my lid when I have long nails. I have short nails now, so it doesn't matter. I only use it for that because I feel like the type of bristles and the density of it makes it not get nasty for a while with the cream product, whereas these ones would get kind of nasty, so I'm only gonna keep it for that purpose. Really random, but yeah. These 4 I just don't find myself myself using. Like, they're really random shapes. I don't find use for them in my life. This is a Spectrum D05. It's like a duo fiber like blending brush, and I don't use it. This one's a Spectrum B03. It's just kind of weird. It's like a weird flat top, and I don't love it. And this one is an e.l.f. angled contour brush. Again, I just don't love it. These brushes are my angled brushes. I really don't use brushes like this often at all, but I do want to keep some of them around because I like some of them. I'm going to be getting rid of these 4. These ones, the quality is just getting really gross. I don't know where this one's from. This is an old Morphe brush. This is a random Too Faced brush. I didn't even know I had Too Faced brushes, and I have no clue where this one's from. But they're just really old, and I don't pick them up very often. These ones I'm going to keep. Again, I don't use this kind of brush very often, but I do want to keep it around. Actually, I'm going to get rid of this one too. This is from Aesthetica. I don't even know where I got this brush from, but it's really thick. I'm just now noticing it's way too thick. I wouldn't be able to do anything precise with it, so I'm going to pass this one along. These ones, however, all have fairly skinny angles to them, so I feel like maybe I could do winged liner with it. Maybe I could do detail work with costumey stuff. I don't know what I'll use these for, but I'm going to keep them around just in case. This is an OMFG brush, this is an OMFG brush, and this is a Spectrum A17. These 2 are brushes I deem to be like my eyebrow brushes, even though I don't use pomades very often. I use this to like have the spoolie to comb out my brows, and then I use the angles to clean up my brows with concealer. This one's from e.l.f. I don't know what the number is, 203. It's one of those clear brushes. I love this brush. Actually, I only need one of these. I'm going to keep the e.l.f. one. I like the e.l.f. one more than this old Morphe one. I don't even know what the number of this one is. It's really, really old. These ones are my liner brushes. I'm going to keep some of these, but a lot of these are really, really bad. My favorite ones are these random Tarte Bamboo bent liner brushes. I feel like the quality is just amazing, and they've stood the test of time. I've had these forever. I have this random Sigma brush. I used to use this for fake freckles, but since I don't really need this anymore because I have freckle products, I might keep this if I ever do costume looks and want to do like liquid lipstick freckles with like a color. I'm going to keep it for that reason, a dotting tool kind of thing. I'm going to keep this Morphe brush as a liner brush. This one still is pretty solid. I have no clue where this one's from, but it's getting very frayed. This Aesthetica one is also getting very frayed. This e.l.f. one is very frayed, and I don't like this brush. I don't even know where I got this one. It has a really random tip, so I'm going to get rid of all 4 of these. I have these little brushes right here. They're all from e.l.f. They're the concealer brush, but I like to use these to lay down like a cream product to make a giant wing with. You guys see me do my giant wing, my winged liner looks where I cover like my entire lid with a wing. That's this brush. I use this brush for that. I like it a lot. These brushes I deem as like inner corner highlight brushes. I'm only going to keep 2 of them though. I'm going to keep this little Morphe M213 and this Alter Ego number 8. They're both fantastic for just laying down that inner corner shade. These 2 have just gotten very floppy and they're very old. This is a Sigma E47 and I don't know what this brush is. It's very old. I have a couple lip brushes. I don't use lip brushes often, but I'm going to keep them anyways just in case. I'm going to keep these 2 at least. The Morphe E19 and the Spectrum A15. These are the ones I'm going to keep around. This one is a Luxy 160. You know, I might keep this one around too. I like that this one kind of has the little holder. And these final 4 are just random miscellaneous brushes. I had no category to put them in. These 2 are very like floppy, flimsy, like they're not good for under the eye. They wouldn't work for cut crease work. Like I literally have zero purpose for these, so I'm going to declutter them. These 2 are just spoolies. This one's from Aesthetica. This is a Luxy 201. I'm only keeping these because when I do costume looks and I do like gluing down my brows, I need just a spoolie I don't care about, and that's these. They aren't my brow brush, they're just spoolies, so I'm going to keep them around. Out of the miscellaneous brushes, I'm keeping these and decluttering these. I like the look of that a lot. Oh man, I'm back. It's actually the day after I filmed my brush declutter that I'm doing this intro and outro just because I wanted all clean brushes, and obviously I've used brushes to create this look, and it's been really nice. Like so far I haven't noticed any of the ones that I decluttered. I'm just chilling, but I'm also fresh into my brushes, so it's all brand new ones. But even now, like I don't really remember the ones I decluttered because they were just ones I wasn't getting use out of. I feel very satisfied. We started out with 237 total brushes and we ended up with 162. That's amazing. I decluttered so many. We decluttered 75 brushes total. I feel so good that we decluttered so many. I'm so thrilled with it. Let's go over my favorite brands of brushes. I'm sure you'll already get like a good idea just based on what I chatted about during the declutter. But Spectrum brushes, Kaleidos brushes, the Alter Ego brushes, and Colourpop are probably my top 4. Oh, and Luxy. Luxy's in there too. So I have top 5. Spectrum, Luxy, Alter Ego, Kaleidos, Colourpop. Those are my favorite brushes. They range from cheap to more expensive. Spectrum and Luxy get a little pricier, but they're still not like insanely pricey. I only use synthetic. I don't prefer to use natural hair just for my own personal reasons. I think that's really all I have to say. I think I packed all the information I wanted to pack in the declutter portion. If you have any specific questions, let me know, but I tried to hit on everything, so hopefully I got everything. I would love to know what your favorite brush brands are. Do you use synthetic and natural? Do you use one or the other? What are your favorite eye shapes, like eye brush shapes? What are your favorite face brushes to use? I just want to have a good old brush conversation in the comments. Maybe you have some good recommendations for people. If you made it to the end of this very, very long video, I want you to leave me a rainbow emoji. And if you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you're not already, please hop over to my Instagram. It's BeatBean. Follow me there. I post every single day, and don't forget to subscribe. I'm posting most days here as well. Since we're quarantining, go wash your brushes today. I said it, that's your chore for the evening. It's gonna feel really good to get those clean, and I will catch you in the next video. Okay, bye.